Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brendan Lee with Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Ralston. Welcome back. Hey, thanks for coming, joining. Huh? Hey, Brendan, I just watched your new video, loved it. Hey, thanks. You mentioned gathering questions for videos. I'm not sure where to post it, so I figured I'd just ask you here. Okay, cool, thank you. I can't remember where you asked, but I have it on a big pink piece of paper. What is the role of a teacher? A facilitator. And then, how did/does actually Ralston work with you? Ralston, Peter Ralston, he's my teacher and mentor. Yeah. Spent a lot of time with that human being. There's a lot of love there from me. It seems it is more than just words/sounds that is being communicated. What do you think about the Zen idea of mind-to-mind transmission? Thanks. Hope you get the chance to shoot and answer. Regards, somebody. And I'm going to mispronounce the name, and I'm not even going to go there. All right, for now. Cool, thank you. What is the role of a teacher and a facilitator? Well, first, in order for me to address this question, I'd have to then consider, what is the context in which you are asking the question in the first place? Because I could see that I could hold a teacher in many different ways. You see, even an object could be a teacher if I were to then somehow learn from objects, you see. So then it really makes it sort of wide open as to what a teacher can be and what is a teacher. You know, if we really go down that road, it really could be anything. Could be any person, whether they're trying to teach me or not. Okay, so there's that consideration. However, I do not think that is why you are asking the question. My guess is, or is in this case, you might be asking, what is a teacher, as in what is a teacher in the arts, in the Cheng Shin world, or in this world in which I provide my value to others, serve others. What is the difference between a teacher and a facilitator? If you want to get an idea about this world more specifically, I believe Peter has some videos on the website, chengshin.com. You can go look, and there are videos there explaining the differences between a teacher and a facilitator. But from my perspective, basically a teacher is somebody who's doing stuff in the martial domain, in this case. And we make a distinction between a trainer and a teacher. So a trainer is somebody who wants to gather people together, and they're going to train, say, the art of effortless power, and then they're the trainer. They're not necessarily a teacher role, although they might teach things. Their main goal is to train with people, and they're clear about that, and they're also clear what they're training. They'll say, okay, I'm doing Cheng Shin. Well, I'm not mixing Cheng Shin with other stuff, and we're training. Now, a teacher is somebody who's gone through a lot of training, and at least in the art of effortless power, somebody who's degree 3 or above. Once you hit degree 3, then you can be as if a teacher. But that's just the technicalities of what makes a teacher. Now, the role of a teacher, the way I see it, is a teacher is somebody who can share knowledge and skills perhaps, and maybe impart a perspective or some such. And, that is a teacher. And there's a difference between a teacher and a facilitator in the sense that now a facilitator is usually in this world. You see, there's a difference. It really depends on the world in which you are engaging. You could be in a spiritual world, and that has a whole different connotation, and it really, as far as I can tell, people are usually very sloppy with their speaking in the sense that they'll say, somebody might be in the Cheng Shin world and have a teacher, and that teacher, whatever they're holding is what a teacher is, may not be the same as a different world or domain of experience. Or in a religious community, or in a school, elementary school in the United States, for example, might be, teachers have different, there's they're held within different contexts, and depending on the context in which it is held, it can become a teacher, can become something very different. So I'm just going to speak on these matters, but what I would like to invite you to do in this case is don't get fixed on a teacher is somehow fixed, you see. Because a teacher could show up many different ways. Okay? So now a teacher, in my perspective, is somebody who imparts knowledge and is they teach somebody something or a skill. And now a facilitator is somebody who invites somebody else and works with them in such a way so that they become more conscious. A facilitator in our world here is somebody who is working with people to get them more conscious. Now, for me, the differences are quite immense. Like when I am in a martial teaching mode, it's way different. It's like I'm showing people things in their bodies. I'm watching what they do with their minds. I'm making corrections with them, saying, no, don't do this, do this. As if, and it seems to me that there can be an aspect in teaching martial stuff that is more by the numbers in a sense. Well, I can do this. Okay, no, correct that. Now do that 100 times. Okay, now tweak that. Do that 100 times. Okay, change that way of thinking. Do that 100 times or 100,000 times or a million times or whatever. Like train. Correct, train it. Correct it, train it. Correct it, train it. And I think, and I'm speculating here, I think because in the martial world it's very easily, it's relative, it's all relative, and it's to deal with the physical reality and like body and mind, you see? All relative domain stuff. And there's very clear feedback, and it's very clear when things aren't right, and it seems to be much easier to be very clear how to get things on track. Now, so there's that aspect of teaching in martial for me, okay? Now, there are domains which I have had the honor to be learning about via Peter recently, that these are domains of martial arts and skill that are no longer purely mechanical in a sense, and it's all about shifting the state of mind and understanding reality and seeing reality through a different principle that then allows me to make certain distinctions about what's going on and operate from a totally different frame-up. Now that, as I struggle with this new domain to operate within, feels a bit like I am being, as if facilitated in something more in the consciousness domain, because it's like I have a certain mind and a certain perception and perspective, and I am trying to get myself to change my perspective to something that I do not currently possess, as if. And so it is pushing the boundaries of what I currently experience. And that is very much like consciousness work. I need to become conscious of something I'm not now conscious, but it's in the martial domain. Okay, so I'm just saying these things to try to note some of the differences, just from my perspective, okay? For the most part, this is all speculation. It doesn't really matter ultimately for what I'm doing, but I thought I got the question. It might be fun to entertain and also for me to consider along with you. Cool? So now, there's that. Now, consciousness, facilitating somebody and becoming conscious is, in my mind, and I've said this in previous videos, so this is a little redundant, is way harder by far. I can't just tell somebody to correct where their knee is going in relationship to their toe. Now go do that 100 times. Because I am working to get somebody to have a breakthrough in their consciousness, to have a new awareness show up where there was none. It is literally metaphorically, like if, say, we're in a room or something, and in this room, I look over and it's clear to me, hey, there is a statue right there. And you are looking out, and your perspective of the same exact room, there is no statue. But mine, there's a statue. And it's clear to me that there's a statue. And it's clear to me that you don't see a statue. You got nothing. Now, how do you get somebody that has nothing to go from nothing to something new? How do you get somebody that has no statue to somehow get statue, and they've got nothing? and they've got nothing to stand on. And all they've got is somebody talking to them, showing and experiencing the statue and trying to point, and then somehow they need to make a leap. That's that's metaphorically the challenge of facilitator. And that is perhaps more the domain of what a facilitator does. You see, they work with people to get them to become more conscious, like make a leap, to have an insight or a breakthrough. You see, now there are breakthroughs that can happen in the martial domain, and they often come as a byproduct of loads and loads and loads and loads of training, and it seems to be a little more like a linear progression, a little more by the numbers. Whereas in facilitation, it's not necessarily by the numbers, or it's like somebody has, they go from no language to writing novels without the intermediary steps. And it's like trying to get somebody from no language to suddenly grasp novels, you see? So there's often a big separation. So the way that I work as a facilitator is very different than the way that I work as a martial teacher. They're like two different personas or perspectives that I adopt, depending on what needs to occur. So then that's my perspective on that. And then there's another thing. This is something I've heard via Ralston, is that he said an excellent facilitator, say for example, may not know a subject matter at a mastery level, but a good facilitator should be able to go into any domain and still be able to enhance as if learning there. Like say I'm not good at physics, I should be able to go into a physics class, say at a college level, and even though I don't do physics, be able to get and create value and further the action of the knowledge as if of the physics, or have the students increase their, for lack of a better word, consciousness on physics, on the matter of physics, or their awareness of what's going on in that world, even though I don't have experience there. You see, so that maybe gives another idea on facilitation or the art of facilitation. Okay. In terms of like martial teaching again versus facilitation, is like if I'm teaching a martial setting, it feels like I can be a little more myself, whereas if I am doing the consciousness work, I want Brendan gone, out of the way. See, I do not want my individual stuff clouding the domain there. It says, no, Brendan, take a seat. I'm going to be a servant to the work, not myself. And that's a large aspect for me as well. Okay? So those are some ideas and perspectives on the role of a teacher versus a facilitator. And again, remember, it just depends on the domain in which you're working. This could have many different roles, and it's good to clarify those things. If you are indeed teaching people, it's good to clarify, like, what is your role? Or like, what is your purpose for the interaction? So then you can align with that purpose and really be effective, and it can change. So I want to remind you and invite you, do not fix what I've just said as like some kind of gospel or something. It really doesn't. It's a lot more open than that. See, I'm just one perspective here, in relationship to the question, which I appreciate. So now, how does actually Ralston work with you? Well, many different domains, and I've been with him forever. All right? At the point of this video, it's 2020, at least like 18 years by now. So he works with me in many different domains, and that martial, consciousness, teaching, personal. It seems it's more than just words and sounds that's being communicated. What do you think about the Zen idea of mind-to-mind transmission? Well, I have not read about mind-to-mind transmission and know very little about it. Now, I hear tell, so I'm just going to talk off the cuff here again. Don't take it too seriously. I have heard people, I'm downloading the transmission, I'm getting the energy, I'm something along those lines, and I imagine that's what you're meaning when you say is mind-to-mind transmission. Now, experientially, or in my experience, there is really, I'm gonna say some stuff here, and I'm a little worried about it, but there are ways that, say, I work, that say, okay, for example, here in the consciousness work, right? I could work with people in that domain and just spit knowledge because I know the spiel. But we don't do that. We don't just spit concepts, and we don't just tell you what to believe. So right away, that's not what we're up to. So what are we up to? Well, the best way to get these things across is to have an actual experience of the material and then speak from the experience. So it's as if I hold the experience, like I be with that, or I be in the experience of which I am trying to communicate. And then I do take action in relationship to that. I use words and actions to get something across to another human being. And that is how that occurs. And then it makes a huge difference in terms of the delivery, whether I'm experiencing it or not. And I can easily, as Peter says, and as I've also experienced now, it's easy to slip into just conceptualizing and just talking from concept because it can masquerade as experience. So that is something I'm constantly having to monitor as I go. And so that's an aspect. Now, in terms of mind-to-mind transmission, I have no idea. I have opinions. I think from what I can tell, from what I've seen, and again, this is very limited, it looks to me like every person who I've seen that's getting some sort of transmission, it's not really demonstrable in terms of what they're getting. Now, there is an aspect of communication, like real communication, when something actually gets as if from one being across to another, that is extremely fascinating to me, that even though there's words and actions happening, the communication itself is not the same as the words and the actions, which is mind-blowing to me because I can do this song and dance, and somehow, even though there's a song and dance, something gets across. And that something that gets across is not the same as the words and the actions and the perception, you see. So from that standpoint, it could be and also seem very much like some sort of direct transmission. Although I don't call it that, I call it communication. Like real communication, when something actually gets across. Or like when you have an aha moment with somebody, or they're saying something, and then all of a sudden you grasp something about what they said, and you have a new experience show up. And they may have said the thing for 10 years, and then at some point, you might not even be in the same room, and then boom, oh, that's what they mean. Now, where does that stuff come from? I don't know. But in terms of mind-to-mind transmission, again, don't know. I am very suspicious of the fantasy aspect as I continue to grow in my own work. I see more and more in many spiritual practices, their commitment is not to experiencing what's really going on, but more toward the fantasy about what they think is going on or have been told is going on by somebody else. And that seems to be what is filling their experience. And so if they are engaged in the fantasy of mind-to-mind transmission, I call that bullshit. Okay, but that's if. And again, I don't know these people. I don't know. But if there is something genuine about some sort of transmission, that then something shows up that wasn't there before, and as if transmitted from somebody else, and then done consistently with many different people, perhaps taking from the scientific method, then I'll be much more open to that as a generally accepted reality. However, I don't really know one way or the other. So most of what I just said is bullshit, And that's my thoughts on the matter, of which I don't really take much stock in my opinion. Okay? So now the best thing to do, here's where I want to support you and then push you, the viewer and the asker of the question. Go check it out, man. Hey, do some transmission. See what happens. Go transmit something. Transmit me something. Let me see and then write to me and then ask me if I got it. You see if it, or, do it. Hey, you never know. Maybe you can, let it rip. Check it out. Go investigate. There's no rule that says you can't. And just because it's in some fancy Zen book somewhere, if that's where it is, doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean it's just reserved for fucking special teachers and stuff. There is nothing like that. So, hey, go for it. In terms of being a facilitator or a teacher, I think I said everything I need to say about that. And again, it's all about you getting it for yourself, because otherwise, what you have, again, is just conceptual knowledge, which is nifty keen, as Peter would say, is nifty keen, and you can use it at a cocktail party. But in terms of actually making a difference in your experience, it's it doesn't really matter. And then in terms of the way Ralston works with me, well, there's ways that he works with me that are perhaps more public, and then there's other ways that are more private and reserved for, people who do apprenticeships and things like that, and or people who have been, I've been with him for a long time, so he works with me a lot differently than he's going to work with the general public, and that's for sure. So thank you very much for your questions. Please keep them coming, because it helps me produce content and helps me stay on track. If you want to work and get more serious with me, please check the links in the description. If you want to sign up to anything else, write to me, drop a comment, all these things. I wish you well in your work. This is Brendan Lee with Conscious Assistant Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Ralston. Thank you. I'll catch you later.